Hi, this is Citi. My name is Bernardo Say. Today I'm here to talk to an African giant. He's a businessman, he's an angel investor, he's a sports lover, he loves to brand companies. I'm here to talk to the one and only Mr. Nicolas Pompin Munya. I hope I got the name right.
Almost.
Almost. So did I win the bet or lose the bet?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that. We'll discuss that after the. Yeah, tell me.
Great. First of all, who is Nicolas?
Well, I'm a former journalist. I used to be a journalist for Gabon News, which is a press agency based in Gabon, Central Africa. I used to represent them to be their correspondent in Europe, based in Paris. And I did that for a few years. And before I created APO, which, as you know, is an acronym, stands for African Press Organization. Well, you ask me what I am today is really an entrepreneur. I'm also a father, a husband, a grandfather.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
So yes, I'm mainly an entrepreneur. I'm involved in different companies. I'm well known for being the founder and chairman of APO Group, African Press Organization, which is a leading Pan-African communication consultancy and press release distribution service. It's a company which has two specificities. The first one is that we have two business units: press release distribution, so I should say media content distribution. We are providing text, image, video, audio files to 450,000 journalists in Africa or reporting on Africa. And we are also a public relation agency. We are the public relation agency in Africa for FIFA, NBA, Basketball Africa League, but also Canon, Jack Ma Foundation, DHL. We're working for Nestle.
Siemens.
So 320. I mean, last year we had, in 2022, we had 325 clients.
Wow, so that's a lot of clients.
Yeah, so we are well known for our activity in relation with sports. As I said, FIFA, NBA, Basketball Africa League, Rugby Africa, Olympique de Marseille. But in fact, the core of our business is corporations. The core business are the companies which are our clients. As I said, out of the 320 clients we had last year, a huge majority, 85%, are multinational companies active in Africa.
Wow. You seem to have a lot of these brands under your wing, but what fascinates me, or what I want to know, is how did they all come about? Because sometimes you meet businessmen and they tell you, oh, I was in the shower and then I got the inspiration, start this company. I mean, was that the same for you?
Not really. First of all, I didn't start it as a business at all. The idea was, as I told you, when I was a correspondent journalist in Paris, I was also the deputy president of the Pan-African Press Association. Yeah. And as an African journalist, I knew that the news about Africa, there were already good news about Africa, you know, but the international media focused on the bad news. Yeah. So it was at the time, you know, that time of the front page of The Economist, Africa, the hopeless continent, etc. So the narrative which was conveyed by the international media was mostly negative. About HIV, about conflicts, about humanitarians, about conflicts, etc., etc. But me, I knew that there were good news. I knew that African Development Bank have established that we had an emerging middle class. I knew that companies were starting to invest here and there, etc., etc. Africa is not a country. You will always have, out of 54 countries, you will always have one or two or three or five countries where there are conflicts and there are difficulties, etc. But there are also countries which are growing, you know, which are developing, etc. And so the international media have that tendency to focus on bad news. So the idea was to make sure, and that's what I did. I contacted all the African institutions, African Development Bank, African Union Commission, Pan-African Parliament, and so on, and asked them to send me their press releases. It was back in 2007. With that, I created a feed of press releases, a feed of news releases, at a specific standard, which is a NewsML format, which is a format for news exchange across the world. Mm-hmm. And then when I had that feed, I went to the Bloomberg, the Reuters, LexisNexis, Dow Jones Factiva, which are the largest news aggregators globally, and I proposed them that content for free asking them to, for free, asking them to make that content available to the international media so they can see, and they will not be able to disregard anymore. That they have to see that there are also good news, and they can choose to
report on
from time to time pick one of those good news.
How easy was it or difficult was it to convince them that, like, indeed there are still good news coming out from Africa? Because I look at it, I'm like, there's modernization now, and what they understand of Africa, they wouldn't be as successful accepting us as they would now. So how difficult was it, trying to let them understand that indeed there are good stories coming out from Africa?
Well, that process is taking a long time. The first step, in my opinion, and at my place, was to make good content, or neutral content at least, available to those international media. But I mean that fight against preconceptions, against let's say it, racism, and the aftermath of colonization, etc. Yeah. It's a huge fight. It's a fight for several generations. We are just playing our part. It's a fight which is going to continue after us. You see that in a lot of different areas, a lot of different instances. If we take the example of sport, for instance, as you may know, the recently elected president of Rugby Africa, which is a governing body of rugby in Africa, is from Ghana. Yeah. Right? He's a Ghanaian, well-known businessman and sport administrator. And during his campaign, he was elected 3-4 months ago. During his campaign, when he was running, he published opinion pieces and he gave interview. He was even, after his election, he was also a speaker at the Bloomberg event in Africa, the Bloomberg Gateway Africa Conference, which is the largest Bloomberg event in Africa. And everywhere he's reminding everyone that the governing body of rugby in the world, World Rugby, while giving 5 million to support rugby in France, 5 million to support rugby in Ireland, 5 million to support rugby in UK, is giving 2 million to support rugby for the entire continent of Africa.
That's more.
And that's 37 countries which are playing rugby in Africa. So on one hand, World Rugby is giving 5 million to France and giving $25,000 to a country like Kenya, for instance. And it is extremely unfair because there are a few things people do not realize. When France, the national team of France is traveling to Ireland, for instance, to play, the flight per person is $300 or whatever, and they don't have to pay for a visa. Yeah. But when Kenya or Ghana is traveling to play against Mauritius,
it's expensive.
It's very expensive. They have to pay visa, etc., etc. So, it is very unfair. I personally believe it's come from what we know, and there is a fight here to be still to be engaged in, and to those things need to change. Those things need to change.
You seem particularly very much interested in development of the African continent. How are you using public relations to champion these causes by using APO Group? Because from where you started doing these services for free, now it's no more for free, but you keep on telling the story. So how are you using your medium to tell or champion Africa?
Well, there are a lot of things we are doing pro bono. People do not realize that because we don't necessarily communicate on it. There are a lot of activities which we are doing. People think we do that commercially, let's say, with a commercial contract. In fact, we are doing pro bono, but we are not claiming or bragging or whatever about that. But slowly, one step after the other, you manage to change things. But as I said, it takes a lot of time to get there.
For you personally, now we are going to look exclusively at branding and sports public relations. What do you think the level of branding and sports public relations is in Africa? Because I look at Ghana, right? I look at some of the clubs in the country. I get literally angry when I see a press release from them. Like, wow, how are you writing something like this? So from where you sit, what do you think is the level of branding and sports public relations in Africa?
Listen, in Africa, the potential for the business of sport is huge for a lot of different reasons. One of the reasons is, according to the UN, Africa will be 40% of all humanity by 2100. So I have to repeat that because apparently not everyone has that information. The United Nations published a report not that long ago which established that by 2100, which is in, 80 years, Africa will be 40% of all humanity. Wow. Like you project yourself in 2100, out of 100 people living on Earth, 40 are African. So if you are a corporation, you cannot ignore that.
Yeah.
You need to sell your stuff.
And you need to sell it to Africa. Yeah,
of course. And if you are a sport federation, it's the same thing. You cannot ignore that. FIFA will tell you, well, I want all those kids to play football, and NBA will tell you, I want all those kids to play basketball, and Rugby Africa will tell you, I want all those kids to play rugby. So, so there is a big stake here, to achieve that potential, we need to professionalize. Mm-hmm. And the sport federation need to professionalize. The Olympic movement, which is also a partner, we also have a strategic partnership with the ANOCA, which is Association of National Olympic Committee of Africa. I mean, all those organizations need to professionalize. It's not enough to love football, to be a good sport administrator. The skills required are different. So slowly, again, I've seen it already. Sport is, in several countries, is professionalizing. The talents are trained, formed. We are, for instance, at APO, as part of our partnership with Rugby Africa, we have started recently an 18-month program to train the communication managers of the African rugby federations.
So all the federations?
Yeah. Well, I think most of the federations are participating. And so they are enrolled into an 18-month program. It's 4 hours of training a month, 2 hours and 2 hours. The training is provided by some of our staff at APO Group, though also provided by professionals. So you have, for instance, the lead on the FIFA account, which is there, the lead on the NBA account, which is there. We also have some of our some journalists to participate to the program. So we have the head of sport at Al Jazeera. We have some BBC journalists. We have a producer at CNN, and they're gonna remotely online with a simultaneous translation in French and English. They're gonna share their knowledge with the communication manager of rugby federations in Africa to tell them how to build a press release, how to build a proper press release, how to take a picture, why it's important to add a picture, how to create a B-roll, a video B-roll, how to organize an interview, how to organize a press conference, how to do a proper media monitoring, all these kind of things. And the idea is to raise the level of the quality and the quantity of the content, so we at APO can distribute that content not only to the African media but also to the world. And it's part of that professionalization which is required in the sport business industry. It's an entire ecosystem which is in the making, but it's happening because on a weekly basis I have discussion with companies I didn't know about, which are doing venue management, fan management, and whatever, so softwares, etc., etc. People are people from African descent, which used to work with the NBA, for instance, or etc. They resign and they create their own business. I know already 3 or 4 which did that. So slowly, that ecosystem is growing, yeah, and the potential of that ecosystem is huge.
So, for you, in the next 5 years, what do you think? What do you think that potential will be able to reach? So, like, let's say now we are here on the curve. Mm-hmm. In the next 5 years, where do you think it's going to go up, or just mildly, steadily?
Personally, I think from what I can see, I have a very I have the chance to have a point of view which allow me to look at NBA, because NBA is a client, Basketball Africa League because Basketball Africa League is a client, Rugby Africa because Rugby Africa is a partner, the Olympic movement in Africa because the Olympic movement is a partner. and FIFA, obviously, because FIFA is a client. And there are a few other things we are doing. You know, usually people work in a silo. So the basketball people, they know only the basketball world.
Yeah.
The FIFA, the football people, they know only the football world. The rugby people, they know only the rugby world, etc. And the Olympic, they know only the Olympic as a movement world, you know. Me, I have the chance that I'm interacting with all those organizations. And in positions sometimes which really allow me to meet head of states and discuss sports, be in the room when those discussions are happening, interacting with ministers about sport, etc. As you may know, Herbert Mensah, which has recently been elected President of Rugby Africa, has appointed me as special advisor to the President of Rugby Africa. Yeah. And so I'm representing him, I'm attending meeting with him. And so it put me in a unique position to really assess the way things are evolving. And to me, it's clear that you asked me 5 years. It's going to move. It is going to move very fast. You will see disparities depending on the sports and depending specifically on the people managing those sport federation and entities. But if you look, for instance, at the Basketball Africa League and NBA Africa, NBA, as you know, is a company. They are extremely aggressive, let's say, in their expansion. Or they clearly have a vision. They clearly have objectives. They have the money which go with it. They have agreement with several countries, including Rwanda. So I mean, they have because they work as a corporation.
It's not even just basketball. It's
if you look at FIFA, the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, announced a few years ago that he wants to invest heavily in infrastructures. He wants to create one FIFA standard stadium in each country. You want to have one stadium at FIFA standard in each African country. If you look at Rugby Africa, I mean, the current president, the newly elected president of Rugby Africa, did more in the last 4 months he has been elected than the previous presidents of Rugby Africa in 5 years. I mean, the guy has a vision. He has a vision, he has a drive, he has a strategy, he has the energy. He's gonna. You ask me where Rugby Africa will be in 5 years. I mean, yeah. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind that a lot will be done. A lot will be done. Ask me where FIFA will be in 5 years. There is no doubt in my mind. I met. Gianni Infantino, Fatma Samoura. I was on the phone with Fatma Samoura just before that interview. You know, the Secretary General of FIFA. I mean, they have a huge appetite for Africa. There is a huge interest. I mean, you know that NFL is now investing in Africa. So in 5 years, a lot of things will have changed. Company will have, which are right now peanuts, will have grow, business, sponsorship, TV rights, leagues. There are huge discussion as we speak. Huge discussion. Again, it's all come down to the demography. And there is the fact also, which we need to. I mean, we cannot have the discussion without mentioning the fact that, for instance, I was with Herbert Mensah, the president of Rugby Africa. I was meeting the president of the French Rugby Federation, which was telling us that there are 1,200 African citizens playing rugby in France. 1,200. I mean, in my books, this is huge. But if you look at the Rugby World Cup will start in a few weeks. If you look at the number of players from African descent in the French team, in the UK team, I think it's 5 or 6 in the French team and 5 or 6 in the UK team. Now, if you look at the African players at the NBA and the evolution of that number, this is a crazy evolution. Yeah. They are taking over. They are really taking over. You know?
It's not even just about these ones, but you look at most sporting disciplines, and a lot of African are, representing other countries.
Sure. So the idea is to invest in Africa. Governments and governing bodies of these sports need to invest in Africa, so African can stay in Africa, compete in Africa. Make a living in Africa.
And develop Africa.
Yes, absolutely.
For you, who is very much interested in branding, what's the one mistake you've seen these brands or sporting brands do when it comes to development of African football or African sports in general?
Well, you mean the governing bodies?
Yes.
if I look, as I said, I have a view on a lot of different sports, right? And it's not the case of that many people. I mean, I speak to Amadou Gallo-Fall, which is Basketball Africa. I speak to Fatma Samoura, which is the Secretary General of FIFA. I advise, I'm a special advisor to Herbert Mensah, which is the President of Rugby Africa. I speak to the President of ANOCA. So there are not that many people which have that, again, point of view, let's say. I think there is some of those organizations I just mentioned, they get it. They already strategize. They already identified that Africa is their future. Africa is their future. I mean, I think if you, I don't want to talk on his behalf, but I think if you ask Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA, or if you Google a few speech he has made or etc., he will tell you that it's obvious to him that Africa, if it's not the future of football, it's a huge, big part of the future of football. That's why he's investing. And he was one of the first ones to say, well, I want to invest heavily in Africa. It was several years ago.
Yeah.
NBA, which is not a sports federation, which is a corporation, they decided to launch their very first league outside of North America.
Yeah.
They didn't launch it in Europe. They didn't launch it in Asia.
Yeah.
They launched it in Africa. So those two sport organizations, one an international sports federation, the other one a corporation, they get it. They started several years ago. They understand what is at stake. Some others are lagging behind, and that's the case of World Rugby. There is no doubt about that. They are apparently comfortable with the idea of having 1,200 Africans playing in France.
Yeah.
And that's only France. I wouldn't have. I don't have a figure for UK or whatever. They are very happy to give 5 million to France and 2 million for the entire continent of Africa, which they have 2 million divided by 37 countries playing rugby. That's again 25,000 per country.
Which is a paltry
This
sum.
is ridiculous, and it's insulting really. And the problem is that when you give the same opportunities to athletes in Africa, to our athletes, you give them the same nutrition, you give them the game, the same training facilities, the same whatever, therapists, physiotherapists, etc., etc. I mean, they are killing it.
Yeah.
They're extremely good. They have something more. I personally believe they have something more. You know, not that long ago, 6 months ago, the three champions of the world of MMA were African, not from African descent, African citizens.
Wow.
Well, you know that, Ganu, Adesina, and I forgot the name of the other one. Right? Mm-hmm. So Cameroon, Nigeria, etc. So again, African citizens. So I mean, the one of
that's
the
Adesanya and
yes, yeah. Ganu, Adesina, etc. Right. So if you consider the huge size of that continent, which again is not a country, the huge size of this continent, and the morphotypes. You know, you need. I mean, in Uganda, for instance, Zambia, you have people. Zimbabwe also. I don't know about Ghana, but you have people. They're entering the room. You will swear they are bodybuilders.
Yeah. You
will swear they are bodybuilders
because of the way they are built.
You will swear they are bodybuilders. You ask them, they haven't touched weight in their life. They haven't done sport in their life. Now those same guys or some others, you will touch their shoulder or whatever. You will feel that you are touching wood. Mm-hmm. The muscle density, etc., etc. So, I mean, we have everything except opportunities. We are not being offered the same opportunities
as the world.
But you give us the same opportunities. You know, when I started working with Rugby Africa, it was November 2017. I wanted to understand, things. And so I remember I asked the president of, at the time, the Uganda Federation, we were together in the car, I said, listen, explain to me. When Uganda is playing against France or UK or Ireland or the All Blacks, etc., they are both teams on the field. What is the main difference? What is it that we know they're going to lose? What is it which make it so that you already know the outcome of the game? What is the big disadvantage of the Uganda team in that setting. And I didn't knew, at the time I was discovering things, and I was expecting that he would tell me, they don't have the same gym facility, something like that. And what he told me that no, it's nutrition, because those guys, they are amateurs.
So they need to
the one in France, they are professionals. They are paid to play, and they are pampered. The Uganda team, and I'm sure it's the same in Ghana, etc., they are amateurs. So what they do is they wake up very early in the morning, they go for a run, then they go to work. Mm-hmm. They are bakers, they are lawyers, they are carpenters, they are whatever. Problem is, and then after the work, they go to the training, and then they have to, there will be 2 African teams competing for the Rugby World Cup. One is Namibia. In the Namibia team, you have amateurs. So people, they have a life like, they have a job, etc. They will have to go to their employer and say, listen, I have to go for 1 month and a half to France to represent the country. I know you are not going to pay me. So there is difference between those people which are paid to play and which have everything. They have been provided with everything, like everything. And the people which are actually making that huge effort to be able to play. They are making huge sacrifice to be able to play. And eventually, the people watching TV, the people which are going to watch at the Rugby World Cup Namibia against All Blacks or whatever, they will assume those 2 teams have the same opportunities, they have the same people.
As an entrepreneur, what's the toughest situation you've had to face while navigating African terrain? Because in my head, I'm guessing that negotiating or talking to an international organization or a multinational company about why they need to have you on board is much easier. But what's the difficulty in navigating the African terrain?
Well, entrepreneurship is extremely difficult. I mean, what I found is that most people do not realize how difficult this is to develop a company. I mean, anyone can create a company, but develop a company is really another story. So, I mean, as you know, I'm giving lectures when I'm traveling across Africa into universities to discuss that very topic about the challenges of creating and developing a company in Africa. But there are a lot of principles which are common to any geography, really. As I said, my main feedback on that is the people I'm interacting with clearly do not measure the difficulty and how difficult this is to build something as a functional corporation, which is commercially viable, etc., etc. Sure. So the only thing I can tell you is that it's more difficult than people imagine.
For you, if you had the opportunity to change one thing about Africa or work on something about the African sport, what would it be?
About the sport?
Yeah.
As I said, I think the main, it's all about, the potential is there. Anyone can see that the potential is there. It's all about being able to realize that potential. Now, in my opinion, the athletes, they are there. Mm-hmm. Athletes, they are everywhere.
Yeah, athletes are everywhere on the African continent.
So it's sport administrations. And sport administration, the main problem are the talents. We live in a world where, still in Africa, when you look at the profile of the president of sport federations, even obviously confederation, etc., they are former athletes, and they love the game, mm-hmm. They love the sport. But loving one sport doesn't make you the
good administrator.
That's it. You said it. No, you said it. You're finishing my sentence. But that's the fact.
Yeah.
If you are not trained in finance, infrastructure management, venue management, etc., etc., so you can have it's not a lack of goodwill. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes, if you really love your sport, if you really want to develop your sport, you need to give the key to someone which actually have the skills and knowledge to do just that. So it's mostly about that. So right now we have the chance of having a few entrepreneurs which are taking over a few sport federations. It's the case with Herbert Mensah, which is a businessman, but also was a sport administrator. He was a president of Kotoko, etc. So he has an experience, right? And the way he's addressing and addressing those things is different from what we see around. As I said, Herbert Mensah did more as the president of Africa. He did more in the last 4 months than the previous president in the last 5 years, and he will continue to do so. There is no doubt. But the quality, let's say, of the top management of those federations is critical for the development of those sports and those games, etc. So capacity building, training, and humility. That sometimes if you and it's sometimes the same in companies. If you really love your organization, you need to be able, if you want to see that organization thrive and develop, you need to have the humility to say, to acknowledge the fact that you may become the limitation to the development of your organization, company, sport, etc., etc. And you need to have need to be wise enough to step back and surround yourself with people which are better than you at doing this. If you really like the sport, right? If you really want to give opportunity to athletes, etc., 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 you need to ask yourself if you are the right person for the job, and if there is really no one better. I'm afraid these days, the way a lot of I mean, if you look at the landscape of presidents of sport federation, national and international, on the African continent, I mean, personally, I think there is a lot of question to ask yourself. I mean, why are they there? Why do they have that? What is their motivation? What did they get there in the first place?
Yeah.
To achieve what? What is their vision? What are they going to leave as a legacy? I mean, those are fair questions.
Yeah, very fair questions.
And those are questions government should ask. I won't mention the country, but I was discussing with a general manager of National Olympic Committee recently, which was telling me that in his country they have changed the law. So if you are an administrator, sport administrator, you need to have diplomas.
Yeah.
You need to have the diplomas, the relevant diplomas. Is it completely crazy?
No, it's not.
And eventually, that's the only way we're going to develop, that industry in Africa. As again, to quote Herbert Mensah, sport is a business, and it's a big business.
Yeah.
Rugby is big business. So to achieve that, you need the right. One of the things you need are the right talents. I mean, again, if mark my words here. I mean, it's a statement I'm doing. We are in 2023. I'm telling you, you are mentioning 5 years, etc. If in 5 years the sport industry in Africa hasn't made progresses, I mean, should we point fingers at the athletes?
Or
is it going to be the fault of the athletes? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. By the way, the athletes, they don't care about all these things. They are training. They are busy training. They are busy winning. They are busy making sacrifice to represent their countries.
So the people who are leading them.
I visited some country where you really wonder if those guys with their beautiful tie with the logo of their federation on it, etc. You really wonder if they really have the best interest of the athletes in mind, which they should. They should.
Wow. Finally, right, what's next for you personally and APO Group? Are you looking at expanding, setting up a big office in Ghana, looking to employ like everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we have a lot of different projects in a lot of different areas, I would say. As I mentioned, we're active in a lot of different we have our fingers in a lot of different pies.
Yeah.
So in the future, usually we do things and we announce things when they are done. So I won't disclose anything specific.
Yeah.
But we have big plans for the next 3-4 years.
And big plans for Ghana.
Well, I'm in Ghana. I met a few officials, and yes, we have a plan for Ghana. I was here with the CEO of Vivendi Sport, which is a company which is organizing the Africa Cup of Nations in Ivory Coast. We are discussing about the organization of the All Africa Games, for instance, here in Ghana, and a few other projects. And yes, indeed, it's already clear that I will have to come back to Ghana sometime in September to discuss also other projects. So we may very well, yes, open an office in Ghana. As you know, I own 100% of APO Group, but I'm also involved in other companies. So some of those companies may very well enter in business here in Ghana, and yes, we may have a presence, like a more established presence in Ghana in the coming months.
And I need you to come and partner Citi FM, Citi TV, so that we will tell your story.
Absolutely.
To the media. So this is my interview with Mr. Nicolas Pompi Munya, and we had a good chat about everything about Africa, African branding, African sports, development of Africa. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did listening to him. For Citi TV, my name is Bernardo Say.